Hi everybody, I thought I'd put out this video after watching Repo Man 64's latest video in timeline linking the days of Noah with his timeline, and I'm going to put a link to his video below for you guys to watch. But anyways, he has virtually the exact same date that I had been keeping personally for myself, but he has the days of Noah between the time frame of the onset of the flood, which is mentioned in Genesis, through the 150 days that the flood remained on the earth, and then the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat, or Mount Ararat. But I had come up with my own timeline. I've been watching the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, and with the days of Noah, he has 150 days, which the Bible states, and I'll go into that in this video, but I want to put it out quickly. And I have been noticed that there's 150 days as well, with something big that's about to occur. And in his video, he said that he thinks something big is about to occur on July 25th, based on the 150 days of Noah. And I had said to myself personally that something big is about to occur on July 23rd through 24th, based on the 150 days with this Ukrainian-Russian conflict. So I see a definite link, a one-to-one link between what he stated in parts of his latest video, which I'll put a link to below in the comment section, and I'll pin as well. So this is going to be a rather rough video because I want to get it out quickly, as opposed to having a very refined or more refined video that looks better. So this is going to be a little rough, and but anyways, I'll go from here and show you the link that I see between the days of Noah and the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. So as it says in Matthew 24, in particular verse 37, but I'm showing verses 37 through 39, it says, "But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." So I believe that the flood timeline of Noah shows the events prior to the coming of the Son of Man. So I want to go into that because that's basically a bit of what Repo Man 64 covered, and I want to go into what I gleaned and picked up from his video that is very similar to what I have with the Russian-Ukrainian conflict or war. So here's a schematic of Noah's Ark and the timeline shown here. I'm not showing all of it, but just the first line of it, and more so in particular what's highlighted here in yellow. And then I will touch on, as Repo Man mentioned something very interesting about the waters decreasing afterwards, possibly being the people. I believe he said, if I'm correct, being raptured. But in the schematic shown here in Numbers 2, 3, and 4, the waters increase for 150 days. So you know that Noah and his family entered into the ark with all the animals and stuff, and the flood waters were on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. Most people know that. But in Genesis 7:24 and Genesis 8 verses 1 through 4, the waters prevailed or remained on the earth for 150 days. So as it rained, the rain waters increased during the 40 days, but they prevailed or remained on the earth for 150 days. And then the ark came to rest on Mount Ararat, as it states. And then thereafter, it goes into Genesis 8 verses 5 through 7, in which the waters decreased, and that was another 150 days. But I'm going to more so cover what Repo Man 64 noticed on his timeline, highlighted here where the waters increase for 150 days, shown here in yellow. So now I'm going to play a little bit of Repo Man 64's latest video, but he's comparing 5 different calendars, the most popular calendars. I'll put a link to, again, as I said, to his latest video below, so that you can watch it more thoroughly than the snippet I'm going to show here. But he compares the equilux, the equinox, the first sliver after the moon enters into the constellation of Aries, and a couple of others. So when you see the list on his video of 1 through 5 and 5 separate dates, that's what he's showing on his timeline. But do go to his latest video to see it in full.
You can see right here, the flood begins on Heshvan 17. 40 days and 40 nights it rains, and then nothing happens. It's silent. It's absolutely silent all the way until you get over to here. Tishri 1. That is the beginning of the year for Noah. And we go forward from there, and the ark finally rests on Mount Ararat. You see how much time he spent on that ark after the rain. After the rain was over with, you can see it up here. Where'd it go? Yeah, after the flood ends on Kislev 27, flood ends, you go forward, and now that would be the 3rd month and the 27th day. You go forward all the way up here until the ark rested. That was the first dry spot that was found, Mount Ararat. That's where the ark rested. 3 days earlier is the 150 days I'm about to show you. And then the ark's resting, ark's up there just resting, and the waters are still going down. And now here we are. Here's what's interesting that we found is all events up until recently have been happening on calendar number 5. But something just happened on calendar number 1. And that was, where did it go? July 18th. That's where Biden and Israel agreed to split Jerusalem. That's a bad day. The Bible clearly is upset about anybody messing with God's land. That happened on July 18th. Of 2, which is Pentecost. That happened 2 days ago. So what's happened, or what appears to have happened, and I could be wrong, but what appears, because you won't find July 18th on the 5th timeline anywhere. It doesn't come up. July 16th does over here for the 75th day of the year, but July 18th does not. And like I said, these dates aren't pushed or pried or anything. They're on there, and if something happens, that's it. So what I'm thinking, you got Pentecost, and off to July 18th, Biden determines to split the land. Something big, really big, is going to happen on Tisha B'Av. If we're back to the first calendar, if God says, as in the days of Noah, and he's referencing the timeline of Noah, July 25th, something big, I feel, is going to happen. We need to be watching for July 25th.
However, for myself, like the days of Noah, I have been watching that the flood waters increase for 150 days, so the 40 days of flooding plus the waters remaining on the earth for 150 days until the ark comes to rest on the Mount Ararat, and then afterwards the waters start receding or decreasing for another 150 days. But unlike Repo Man 64's video, I had only been watching what was going to happen for 150 days from the onset of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict on February 24th of this year. So with the time and date calendar with February 24th 2022, the start of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, and that was at 2:08 in the morning UTC, but it was 3 hours ahead in Russia, so it was 5:08 in the morning, but they're UTC plus 3. I did add 150 days to that start date and came up with July 24th this month in a few days at 2:08 a.m. So the time is not as critical, but the date is July 24th, 2022, when you add 150 days to the onset of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict or now war. So when Repo Man 64 said he had July 25th, that he believes something big is going to happen, and I agree with this latest Israeli Biden going to visit over there, the dividing of the land. I believe that things were going to happen. As a high watch date for myself was July 24th, but with him saying July 25th, which is just a day difference, so I think it's just splitting hairs at that point, that I do believe this is going to be a very high watch date. But he got his from comparing the 5 timelines, and the first calendar that he was showing is the Equilux calendar, but I was doing mine just strictly based on the start of the conflict, and we both came up with the same date, essentially doing it 2 different ways. So if we have indeed entered the days of Noah, and I'm only focusing on the first half, the first 150 days, then on day 1 the floods began, and that was the 40 days of rain night and day. That would be day 1, would be the Ukrainian-Russian conflict began, and that was on February 24th. Then for day 50, on Noah's flood line, the flood waters remained or abided. So the peoples, if you compare it to waters being people, the peoples or people remain. Then day 150, the ark comes to rest on Mount Ararat. And then after the 150 days on Noah's timeline, the flood waters begin to recede. And you can compare this to, as Repo Man 64 says, that the peoples are removed. And I added either via or by the rapture or sudden destruction. So I believe with the stuff that has occurred with the Biden-Israel ordeal, and that sudden destruction will come upon them that divide the land. And that is per 1 Thessalonians 5:3. For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them, and they shall not escape. So the them also includes both Israel, the Middle East, that was a part of this deal, but in particular the United States and Israel. So again, I believe after the 150 days, but in particular 153 days, which was the resurrection date according to his timeline, the floodwaters will begin to recede and people are removed, again via the rapture or sudden destruction. And I think the 153 plays in particular to John 21:11, which is the great catch of 153 fish, which we know is related to the rapture. And so as it says in John 21:11, Simon Peter went up and dragged a net to land full of large fish, 153. And although there were many, the net was not broken. And many of you know that this alludes to a rapture in which the fish are caught up in the net, and that being the rapture. So I do think that the days of Noah are possibly being played out, in particular the 150 days, and then comes the sudden destruction and the rapture after the 150 days begin. So by two different methods, both Repo Man 64 and myself came up with essentially the same day, which is July 24th, July 25th. Again, that's basically the same date. I can't say this is a rapture date. I'm not claiming this to be a rapture date, but only claiming this to be a very high watch date, as I do believe we are potentially in the days of Noah, as things seem to be playing out according to Noah's timeline. We shall soon see, because today is the 21st of July. But given the fact of all the events that are taking place around the world, but in particular with Israel and then trying to divide the land, I think this whole period through July, August, and even the fall feast are going to be a very high watch period. So I'm just bringing to the forefront, along with the information that Repo Man 64 presented with his 5 calendar timelines, in particular after July 18th of the signing of the, I believe, declaration between the United States and Israel dividing the land, to its pre-Six-Day War in 1967. And but anyways, I believe that you can see that the handwriting is indeed on the wall, and the time is getting even shorter before both the rapture and sudden destruction occurs. I believe between the United States and Israel, along with the Middle Eastern countries, as well as the Ukrainian-Russian war. So please come to the Lord, as the time is short. Please give your life over to the Lord, and bear in mind that tomorrow could be the day, the 24th, the 25th of July could be the day, or even in the following days and weeks to come, all the way through the fall feast. Anyways, I hope this video has been a blessing. I apologize for it being pretty rough, but I wanted to get this out to everybody, and in light of what I saw with Repo Man 64's date being almost exactly the same date that I had predicted, being 150 days after the onset of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, and his date. So anyways, I will talk to you soon. Take care.